All right. Welcome to another episode of Unfiltered Fridays on the Consistency Corner podcast. I'm really excited to have my friend and client, Amy Mills, on today, who is the owner of Create Bakery and Gifts. And we're going to talk about the history of Amy's business and kind of how she got to where she is today. But as a service provider and really, I guess, a product-based business, like being in the kitchen and making baked goods for people, why she decided to get some support with her marketing and how that has helped her grow over the past couple of years. And we just finished a 9 grid for her Instagram. And so we're going to talk about that process and what that was like for her. And have a really unfiltered conversation about what it's like to work with the Consistency Corner. If you're curious, you're going to hear it straight from a client. So Amy and I met in a networking group for women in the Sarasota area. Funny enough, we're actually this afternoon going to a networking event, which we were both like, maybe we could just skip it and go get coffee. But the power of those networking events, had I not gone to that one, a few years ago, she and I would have never met, and we've become friends. We've worked together, and that's the power of putting yourself in rooms, which can sometimes feel uncomfortable and scary. And we might talk a little bit about that too, but good things can come from it. So it is important to take that leap and put yourself out there. But Amy, thank you so much for being here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your business and how you got to where you are in your entrepreneur journey today?
Well, good morning, Ruthie. Thank you for having me. So Create was born around 2016. And I just kind of started, I'm self-taught, so I started playing around in the kitchen a little bit at home. I think Starbucks had maybe just started releasing their cake pops. And I was like, well, I can make cake pops. And so I started making cake pops. And then I was like, well, let's perfect a chocolate chip cookie. And it just kind of spiraled from there that I just wanted to see what I could do. Could
Yeah.
I, what could I create? And that's really how I came up with the name too, is what can I create out of really nothing? So,
Yeah.
uh, so we fast forward, when COVID hit, I really thought, well, this might be the end of Create because I was still baking from home. Obviously, things were shut down. There wasn't a lot going on. Kids were home. And I saw a notice on Instagram that somebody was looking for or had space to rent, part-time space. And I
Hmm.
was like, all right, it's time to either sink or swim. And so I took that jump, and we fast forward, this December will be 3 years that I've been a part of that commercial kitchen space. Went from part-time to full-time, and here we are today. We've got multiple wholesale accounts. We do decorated cookies, like I said, cake pops, cupcakes, and that's a little bit about us.
Yeah, I love it. And when you took that leap to take on the space of the commercial kitchen and knowing that, like, okay, now we really, like, we got to get serious. What were you doing prior to that from a marketing perspective? And what was kind of your thoughts and as far as like, how do I, do even more marketing to make myself successful?
Marketing, really, Facebook, Instagram. I did a lot of weekend pop-ups at local breweries. That is
Hmm.
how I started to get my name out there. And as you would guess, with kids and every weekend trying to do pop-ups gets a little challenging, a little tiresome. And I had kind of gotten to that point where I was like, man, we can't do full weekends of back-to-back cookies and pop-ups. So we did that, and again, still Instagram, Facebook, some like food truck rallies, those kind of things where you are meeting other people in the
Hmm.
food industry, and so that helped. Um, and then just trying to wear all the hats and kind of, you're winging it somewhere or everywhere,
Yeah.
trying to make it happen.
Yeah. And ultimately, you started your business because you loved creating baked goods and you loved being in the kitchen. And I'm sure when you first started your business, you weren't like, man, I can't wait to go market this thing. And is
I
that one
don't
of
want to
those?
do it now. I still don't want to. I would
Yeah. And I
rather
think
be hands in, headphones on, making something.
in the kitchen and baking. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you make a great product, which speaks for itself. But if people don't know it exists, it's never going to continue to grow and go anywhere. And so what
Correct.
we've worked on together, and we first started working together last year. Gosh, I think it was last summer. We did a quarterly content plan. So you were
Yes.
like, okay, I know I'm posting on social media, but like I'm just bored and burnt out with posting, and I'm either not doing it or I'm I don't know what to do and it's taking way too much time. So we did a content plan. Kind of talk to me about how that maybe reignited or sparked some creativity around content for you.
Yeah, because I was just kind of posting, I made this is how you get it, blah, blah, blah. And it was really getting boring to me because at least when I'm
Mhm.
in the kitchen, I could just create something new if I want to. And I think with being consistent with content and you're doing it and doing it and doing it, I just needed some help. I needed some fresh ideas, and
Mhm.
it was exciting. It was exciting, like, oh, here's an idea. It's kind of like getting outside of your head a little bit, because when you work alone, mostly you get stuck up here, and you're just going and going and going. So
Yeah.
that plan was super cool.
Yeah.
Uh,
So we did the content plan last summer. You were able to
yeah.
follow along. You started to see some increased engagement. And
Mhm.
then this past January, you were like, okay, I really want to work with you on a more consistent basis. And you signed up for my quarterly content planning package, which is
Yeah.
where together we plan a quarter's worth of content. And then Amy and I have monthly touch bases where I'm able to continue to kind of give her ideas and spark that creativity and find, okay, well, what if we try this? Well, let's try this instead, and really customize the strategy to your bandwidth. And so
Yeah.
what started happening is this spring, um, you started taking on some more wholesale accounts and you were like, I am at capacity and
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
not have any time. So let's kind of talk about like how hard was it to keep up with content as your business was growing?
Super hard because it takes a lot of physical energy when you're in a kitchen making things. And so at the end of that, I would be like, I just don't have I have nothing else to give. I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah,
Not a
because you
picture.
also
Yeah, not an idea. I had nothing.
and you're also a mom, and so you've got a
Yeah.
family to take care of, and you've got a household
Yeah.
to run, like so many of the
Yeah.
business owners that I work with. And so that like creativity and zone of genius to like have content ideas and create them, you were just spent. And
Yeah.
so what Amy and I talked about as we were having our touch base, I said, you know what? Let's try the 9 grid. And we're going to talk about that process. But she was like, what the heck is a 9 grid? And
And
so
when
I
can we start?
yeah, I explained it's a static content concept so that we're going to have 9 squares on your Instagram that tell your story. And the reason I knew that it would work for Amy is she also joined a professional networking group this past spring and she was committing to weekly networking. So she was getting out into the community and getting her name out there, which I knew would have eyes on her business. And I knew from our conversations that you were not in a place to maybe update your website, even though you were like, I'd love to have it redone, but I just don't know when that's going to happen. And so it was like, okay, we've got to make the most of your Instagram because people are on Instagram and they are going to check you out. And so that was when talked through the 9 grid idea and you were like, yes, let's do it. How soon can we start?
Yes.
So from that initial conversation where I suggested it to it was posted yesterday as when we're recording this, how long was that total process for us? It was like 3 weeks, right?
Maybe. Yeah. It doesn't even feel like it was that long.
Yeah.
Definitely that window. Yeah.
Yeah, so we said we're going to do this. We booked her 1 hour call, which she had a 1 hour call that month anyway with me. And instead of spending our time doing the 1 hour call on a quarterly content plan, I said, what we'll do for this quarter is I'll do a 9 grid for you. And so we had that 1 hour meeting and kind of talk to me about that collaboration session and what that was like for you. And, is it what you expected? And just kind of walk people through what we did when we collaborated on the planning.
So it was definitely a relief. And I really didn't know exactly what that meant. Um, but I trust you, and we'd been working together for a while, and I knew it meant that you were going to just take this on for me. And that was amazing. And hashing out the details, getting you photos, super simple. Really, it was a breeze. It
Yeah.
was simple, and that's what I needed because other than I just wasn't sure what my next step would be, coming from the content plan to the 9 grid, but really it's just so simple.
Yeah. So as a existing client, I did know a lot about your business already.
Yeah.
For a new client, what I would do is I would have you fill out a short survey. I mean, it's like 10 questions where you answer some questions about your business and your ideal client. And then we have a 1 hour meeting. And during that meeting, we're like having conversations and I'm asking questions to get the information that I need. And you and I talked about your offers. We talked about your ideal client. I suggested different types of language that we could maybe use because I have this framework in my head of what the 9 grid is going to need to represent. And then we looked from kind of like a design direction because there's a lot of different directions that we can go. And I want to make sure that the design, the visual part of it, you feel good about and you're excited about. So we just kind of went through 4 or 5, maybe 6 different options. And you're like, I think I like this. I think I like this. And then I said, okay, I'll take it from here. And then over the next week or so, what we do is I have Voxer, which is a voice messaging app that I would send you kind of the design along the way to get your feedback. And it's funny because I have another client who we're going through this similar process, and she was like, okay, you got to send me less options. And she's like, I really love that you care so much and you create so many options because you want to make sure that you're getting what I want, but like it's too much and I'm overwhelmed. So I'd love to hear your feedback on like the number of options and how that felt to kind of have to make small decisions along the way.
Well, I think really it was great to be able to jump on like the 30-minute call and
Mm-hmm.
go through the options with you because it did feel a little overwhelming me reading through all of it. And actually, it was more than I thought, but I loved it. Like more copy than I thought it would be with post. But that
Yeah.
was amazing. But looking at it on my own and then trying to like pair the picture, and I didn't exactly know all the software you were using either. So clicking on it or trying to make an edit, I just didn't know how to do it. So being able to have that option to reach out, and I just thought it was great that we were able to fit that conversation into a 30-minute call that felt like the right amount of time to go through each one, make the edits. Yes, we like it. No, we don't. Done.
Yeah.
So I do think the option of having that call is helpful versus maybe back and forth in Voxer. So I like.
Okay. Yeah, that's great feedback. And the back and forth in Boxer was kind of like, hey, do you like the direction of black or pink? And then
Yes.
we'll move forward from there. But like the final project, yes, once I had it all done and I was like, okay, I feel good about this. All the graphics are done. All the captions are written. Agreed. That 30-minute call where we went through post by post and you were able to say like, I wouldn't use that word, or, okay, I want to do a carousel where I add additional photos of these things. I was able to take that feedback and finish it up. And then this is my favorite part. You were like, can you just post it for me? And I was like, yes, I can. And so you gave me your Instagram password. And this week I did a takeover on your Instagram.
So fun.
And it was so fun. And it was fun to be able to share those things and hop into your stories and talk about the process. And the reason that that worked really well is because I have a couple of other clients that they were very similar to you. They were too busy to create. They knew the 9 grid would work for them. I delivered it to them. 2 months later, it is still sitting in their inbox and they haven't posted it yet.
I was fearful that you would send it to me and I'd be like, this is great, Ruthie. I'll get to it, in 2 weeks. And that's the point.
Right. The point is to get it up there and to build some excitement. And one of the things that you and I had also talked about is, okay, I've got this 9 grid up there. Well, when do I change it? Like, when do I need another one? And you're already really good about being on stories and sharing behind the scenes in the kitchen, announcing when you've got new products, sharing your Peloton workouts and your dog. So you're active on Instagram. It was just the posts that were taking up so much energy. So what I had shared was that my recommendation is that we keep it up for at least 3 months. And then we decide, does it need a refresh? Or does it need an overhaul? Or can it live a little bit longer? But we can decide that after we have the data. and the information of what's happening over the next quarter. And so we'll see. We'll meet again in November and decide what we want to do, if we want to update it, if we want to start from scratch and start over, or if it's good and we can just leave it as is and we can then take on a different project, which for you might be an update to your webpage or a new email newsletter or a new lead magnet or something like that. But the
Yeah.
idea is that this 9 grid takes it off your plate so that posting is not something you have to think about, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I know for me, I posted a 9 grid in June. Well, since I posted it, I have made some tweaks to my messaging. I have made some tweaks to my offer suite. And so, like, I'm going to redo mine in September. Now, after 3 months go by, I don't know yet if I'll redo it again or I'll keep it up. But I committed to that 90 days because what I see a lot of business owners do is pick a strategy, whether it's a 9 grid or something else, and then say, after like 5-ish weeks, this isn't working. Well, you have to give it time to work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that we've got it posted, let's talk a little bit more about the networking, because I know that's a really big piece of it. And that's something that I want to make sure people understand, that the 9 grid in and of itself, just like I always say, social media is not a strategy. The 9 grid is not the end all be all to your business. And for
Right.
you, networking has been a really big way for you to make new connections and get new eyes on your business. So kind of talk to me about how you committed to networking this year and what that's looked like.
So it's been about 3 months since I joined. It's once a week, and it really forces me to get out of my comfort zone. And because you stand up, you've got a little 30-second spiel that you give, and you talk about your business, what you're looking for, and it really forces you to be super specific, and it forces you to show up every week. I'm the only baker in the group also, so I do like that. There's no direct competition within that group.
Mhm.
Uh, and then I like being able to say, hey, go to Instagram, follow me. That's where I'm the most active. That's where you're going to get the best information, photos, links. It's nice to be able to have that 9 grid now complete, force me to update that link and create that quick. I didn't even know that Canva thing was a thing, that it could look like that. And it just, I feel so much better about it because now there's no confusion on what I do. You can
Yeah.
look at the 9 grid, click the link, see that there's, a wholesale link, a pre-order link, a retail link if you're having some kind of party. It's clarity.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think,
So as part of your 9 grid, we redid Amy's bio, made it clearer, made sure that it really speaks to where she is, who she serves, and how a customer can work with her. And this Canva link that she's talking about. So she has a Squarespace website, which is what her POS runs on. But the Squarespace site, design wise, is it's a lot to try to
it's
update.
overwhelming. Yeah.
It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming for you. And then you are also finding it was overwhelming for potential customers. And so we did a mobile site on Canva, which is super visual and easy to understand. And that took you what, like a couple of hours, maybe?
I mean, maybe it was so simple, it was silly.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
so
So we got
silly that
that
I had done it.
updated. Yeah, we've got that updated. And now with that networking, you can feel confident when you send people to Instagram. You feel
Yeah.
confident in a place to send them. And you've thought through that customer journey of, okay, once they get to my Instagram, what do they do next? And we've got really clear calls to action in terms of like the form, the website, DM me, because you do a lot of like custom orders where people have conversations with you in the DMs. But
Yes.
since you've started that networking commitment, and I
Yeah.
know you said like it's super scary and it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable, how has that changed in terms of like leads and filling the top of your funnel for you?
It's still working like most things. It takes time to build those business relationships, but like immediately, I've definitely, I mean, the people within the group are ordering and asking questions and do you do this, do that. So it really just opens up it opens up questions and conversation more than anything. So it would be hard to not get a lead as long
Yeah.
as you're going to also put the work in and
Yeah.
show up and meet with somebody for coffee outside of the meeting, because you're getting to know them as well. But it would be tough to not get a lead unless you just really shut yourself off to it.
Yeah.
So,
And I
yeah,
think it's one of those things that when we think about like top of funnel and how we get new eyes on our business, it's like it's planting and watering seeds. And they're not going to necessarily harvest immediately, but if you never
yeah,
plant them, they're never going to harvest. And so going to the group and joining the thing, like that's top of funnel, you're getting out there, but then you're having those coffee dates. You're putting content on social media that continues to nurture. And so you're making the most of those things that you're doing. And we talk about this a lot on the podcast that like marketing is like health and fitness. You can't just do one thing one time and then expect to be
right.
healthy.
There's not like a 30-day challenge that's gonna last forever,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So you got to keep going. And
Yeah, but
that's what it is. Yeah.
finding ways to make it work for your budget and your bandwidth,
Yeah.
because so often I think we see somebody who's maybe 5, 10 chapters ahead of us and we're
Hmm.
like, well, I can't do what they do. And then we get really frustrated, but it's like, okay, well, what can I do? What will work for me right now in this season?
Yeah. I mean, that's been a giant, I think, learning curve is figuring out what is enough and what can I cut out, because you
Mhm.
can't do everything. It's just not possible. And that person that's ahead of you, you don't necessarily know their story.
Mhm.
And you could be there, but it's just not today that you're there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I think that what can I cut out, we can do anything, but we can't do everything. And so, you made the decision to outsource to a marketing partner when like, yes, you could have done all of those things by yourself, but it became more efficient and easier when you got support, which then gave you the energy to be able to do some of the other things, right?
yes, absolutely. Because otherwise, God, it just weighs you down. And it's
Mhm.
always in the back of your head because everybody is going to the internet in some capacity, a website, your social media, something. And if you're a mess on there, I don't know that somebody's going to want to hire you. Even if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
are good and your product's good, but if everything kind of looks a mess, it's a reflection on, I feel like it's a reflection on yourself and possibly your business. And they're like, well, I don't really know what she does, so
Mhm.
I'm just going to go to the next person. I'm
Yeah.
not the only baker out there, and if I need to at
Right.
least look like I know a little bit of what I'm doing.
Yeah, for sure. And it makes then all that other work you're doing like that much harder because you don't have those tools in place for the customer journey to make it easier to build those relationships. So
Yes.
I'm so appreciative that you realized that and realized that like it was okay to ask for help, that you didn't have to try to
Yeah.
do everything by yourself.
And if I hadn't joined, like you mentioned, some of these networking groups, I'm not sure I would have ever asked for help. Because
Hmm.
you go there and you meet with some other like minded people that are like, you got to ask for help.
Hmm.
And then you kind of feel like, oh, yeah, I'm not alone and we can't really run anything alone. We all need help. So
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
groups like that, being around small business owners, I think is super helpful.
Yeah, that's so true. All right. So any kind of last minute tips you want to share or feedback on the 9 grid process? Any like if somebody at your networking group asked you like what is this? Should I do this? What would you tell them?
So the answer is yes, they should. And I'm going to send them to your Instagram. And then I'm going to send them to mine so they can see exactly what you did. And I mean, absolutely. I have zero regrets at all. And I'm already excited for like the next one.
Yes,
It was
because
just so cool.
it's a
And
fun process. Yeah.
so much traction too. Lots of comments, lots of this looks so good. This is so fun. So clearly things were a little stale before.
Yeah. And
So,
the cool thing is too, we talked a little bit, you talked a little bit about how there's a lot of copy, that it was more copy
Yeah.
than you were expecting. The cool thing is you can take the copy from those 9 posts and repurpose it. You can
Yeah.
use it in emails. You can use it in, scripts for reels or stories if you want to. You can
Yes.
use it as a script for a networking event where you're like, this is what I'm going to talk about this week. And that's one of the things that Amy and I had talked about in like working together, was even how she could get more clear and succinct at the networking events in talking about what she does and speaking to what the listener wants to hear and needs to hear, and how she solves their problems. And those are things that are like messaging and branding that over time, by working on it, you get better at, right?
Definitely. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would 100% recommend you, Ruthie.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. It's been a lot
You're
of fun
welcome.
working with you. And before we wrap up, I have a couple fun get to know you questions as another like working mom who runs a business, runs a family, runs a household. We still have to have some fun too. So I got some
Yeah.
fun questions. The first
Okay.
one is, what show are you currently into or have recently binged that you loved?
So I love the Real Housewives.
Oh my gosh,
Specifically, Atlanta is my favorite, but it's my favorite thing to kind of to binge. Yeah.
yeah. So funny. My coach, Holly, she loves Real Housewives too. And I just did a podcast interview with her the other day. And I was like, am I the only person who is not into Real Housewives? Like, I'm like, unpopular opinion, I'm not into it.
I really wasn't either till maybe a year ago or
Yeah.
so, and I watched Atlanta from the beginning, and I just got sucked in, and it's just sometimes something that I can put on and just disconnect a little bit because it's a wild ride on those
Yeah.
shows.
I might need to give it another chance. I watched it like back when it first came out, like when it like premiered.
Yeah,
I mean, this was probably 12, 13, 14 years ago. Like I think I still
yeah,
lived in Indiana when I watched it.
yeah.
And I watched a few seasons, and then I had made the decision that it was too much drama, that I was
It
like,
is.
I don't need that in my life, but
Yeah,
maybe it would be a fun disconnect to kind of go
yeah.
back to it.
That's what
Right.
it is for me. I'm like, my life is not that, but also
Yes.
fun because they're around. They're on their private jets and fancy purses. It's just kind of fun to watch.
Yes, I love it. Okay, so we all know that you love a good treat since you are in the kitchen
Mhm.
baking all the time, but I would love to
Yeah.
know, what is your current favorite go-to snack?
My favorite snack. Hmm. It's really not a sweet treat and it's kind of boring, but I will eat like yogurt and fruit as like a quick in between. I try to eat pretty healthy, which might sound funny, but I try to eat pretty healthy. But I do love a good fudgy brownie. So if I'm
Mm,
gonna go for something sweet, it's probably gonna be chocolate based.
yes, I am team brownie over team cake all day long.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Me
I would
too.
rather have brownies for my birthday than cake for my
Yeah,
birthday.
me too.
Yes. All right, so along with your go-to snack, what is your current favorite adult beverage and non-adult beverage?
All right, so it's really been a while. I used to drink a lot more. I don't drink that much now. But I like an old fashioned if we go out to dinner every so often.
Mhm.
Um, and then, of course, coffee. I love just black coffee, but if we go to a coffee shop, I will try a latte, a cappuccino. I love all of it.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Are you like a every morning coffee person?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to bed and I'm like, I can't wait to have some coffee in the morning. Yes.
Yes, I can't wait to
Yeah.
go to sleep so that tomorrow I can wake up and drink coffee. Yes, it's so funny. I love it.
Yes.
All right. And then my last question is about travel. Where is a place that you have traveled recently that you would recommend?
So we traveled to San Francisco in June,
Oh,
and that
fun.
was amazing. I've never been anywhere further than the Midwest,
Hmm.
so it was beautiful. It was different from any place I'd ever been, so I would highly recommend checking out San Francisco.
Yeah, I've heard that it's like different than what it used to be, but I think they're like just like with any city, there's probably good places and bad places, and you can
Oh,
find the
I'm
good.
sure. And when you're in a city, and there's always going to be places that maybe you don't go. But I enjoy, if we're going to travel, we usually go to cities, and I enjoy being in a city where I don't need a vehicle, where
Hmm.
I can turn and on any corner is a cafe, coffee shop. I like having access. I am not. I'm not going to the woods to disconnect. Like, that's not. And I do kind of get it. I understand the purpose behind it, and I think it's beautiful. But that's not my choice.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Asheville, North Carolina?
No, but it is kind of on the list of places I want to go.
Oh my gosh, you would love it because it's city, but you're like surrounded by the mountains, so you get
So
that like
beautiful.
nature relax vibe. And being that you live near St. Pete and you understand what St. Pete is
I love
like,
Sandy. Yeah,
Asheville is like St. Pete with Southern biscuits. Like
I
that's
do
it.
love Southern food. Yeah,
No,
I love Southern
no.
food. But yeah, we love St. Pete too. Yeah, I love it there. But I love a
Yeah.
city. I love a walkable place.
Yes, I love that. Awesome. Well, Amy, thank you so much for being here. Obviously, we recently updated your Instagram. So if people want to check you out, check out the Nine Grid. Where do you hang out online and where can they find you?
Instagram at Create Bakery and Gifts.
Awesome. And if you're in the Sarasota area, we'll do a little plug for your wholesale partners, Sarasota or St. Pete. Where can they try your treats?
Oh, sure. At both O&A coffee locations in Sarasota. And there is the Grove Surf and Coffee Shop in St. Pete, and Bad Mother also in St. Pete.
Yes. And all of those are like really fun, vibey, Instagram worthy coffee shops.
Yes, they're all very beautiful shops with
Yes,
latte
very,
art. Yes.
very fun. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Ruthie.